Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time you're watching this, whether it's live or it's on the replay. So thank you so much for being here. And I'm looking forward to sharing about core values. What makes a core value and why are they important? So core values are in our being. They are our direction. They are our compass. They're our beliefs. They're how we show up in the world. And so core values are so important because of those very reasons. There are fundamental beliefs that we believe that drive us to who we are. Now, often they're generated in childhood. And actually, how to identify our core values is looking back on our childhood and things what really mattered to us, what made us cross, what made us happy in the playground. What kind of triggered us, as it were, because that is often an indication of what our core values are. Now, fundamentally, we have three core values, and they never change no matter our circumstances, our situation, who we're with. They will stay within us, embedded within us all our lives. We might have 20 other values that are important, but they're not, they might be dependent on circumstances. So what I mean by this is if supporting your family is your strongest value, and heaven forbid you're in a war zone where food was a real challenge and honesty was another of your values, you might want to portray your value of honesty in order for your family to survive. So that's what I mean. If supporting your family is your top value, then that will trump everything else. So I think it's so important also to think about the behaviors that illustrate that value. And for example, nothing drives me more mad than actually if I'm in a business, I see the values on the wall, on the website, and it's clear that they're just words. They're not being embedded in that organization. So they need to be embedded in your being. And there are certain organizations, I love Apple. Whenever you go into Apple store, in my experience, they all are living and breathing their values. They're all about innovation. They're all about simplicity. They're all about making a difference and customer service. Even if they have to downsell a product, they just want to do what's best for you or for me. That's my experience. So I think also it's what we name that value. So for example, my top three are integrity, connection, and justice. Now, I always thought my top value was, one of my core values was collaboration, because I'm all about working together, being stronger together than we are apart, and never competition, unless it's wanting to be better than I was yesterday. And then I realized that actually it is the connection, and collaboration is part for me to create that connection. So you might find that your core value is honesty, for example, and then you think actually it's integrity. And integrity for me encompasses authenticity, honesty, trustworthiness, a whole plethora of other values. So have a think about what mattered to you as a child. To get very angry and very cross as a small little girl if I saw somebody was not being fair to one of my friends. And so therefore I think that was where the justice kicked in. And I think I also got very upset if somebody didn't say what they were going to do. If they promised something, they didn't deliver it, I was really disappointed. So again, that's where the integrity came in. And I always loved being with friends. I always loved sort of like having been together in groups and things. So I think then, again, the connection and the having friends was really important to me, as it is to so many of us. So I think the way to actually identify your values is there are lots, and I have a list. If you want a list of my little workbook, by all means, put it in the comments below, and I can send you my workbook to help you identify your values. And it's going through a list. There's lists of hundreds of values. I mean, certainly if you go on the internet, there's lists of 50 values, 100 values, 150 values, a whole plethora of different values. And immediately, the first thing to do is just have a look, get a piece of paper if you're of old school like me, or just look at it and just tick the ones that, no overthinking, that just resonate with you. And you might have a long list, probably about 20, 25. And then you can work through that list and think, okay, which ones are, group them, because you might find, okay, honesty, trustworthiness, integrity, they're all kind of similar, have different meanings, but actually are all under that umbrella of authenticity or integrity. So then when you've grouped them, you might find you've got 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 columns, and then you can have a look at that and see how can you put them under umbrella even further, so you end up with the top 3. And then it's a question of just living with them for a little bit and see, is this the right wording? Because often it's the behavior that actually helps us identify what the name of the core value is. And then it's a question of articulating it. So particularly if you have a business, it's how you are articulating those values on your website. How are you articulating it amongst your colleagues if you're a team leader? If you're a CEO, how are you articulating it amongst all your teams and your employees? Because we can all interpret values differently. I did a workshop with a very big national organization. They were identifying their values, and we had a whole fantastic fun day looking at their top 3 values. And just for example, fairness. Asking the employees what fairness meant to them was really enlightening, because they could have interpreted it very differently. So like all communication, it's how we disseminate it, how we communicate it, how we understand it, and what are the behaviors behind it. So if you have a top value of integrity, what does that mean? How does that show up in reality? So at my Leaders Unleashed session this morning, we were talking about this, and somebody said, I'm always there. So if I'm going to be there for 8 o'clock, I will be there at 8 o'clock. And I highlighted, yes, we can intend to be there at 8 o'clock because that's what we've promised. However, we're still in integrity. If we get caught in traffic, and we can't always predict that, and we're going to be late, being in integrity is not being there for 8 o'clock. Being in integrity is to ring up and say, I'm really sorry, I'm going to be late. I'll be there in 20 minutes or whatever. So that's how it shows up in reality. Justice, we can have a very strong sense of justice, as I say, is one of my strongest values. I get really angry if I feel anyone's been undermined, or I feel that, something's unfair. So again, that shows up how it shows up with you. So have a think about what your values are, how they show up. I think it's important to discuss it with your family, with your colleagues at work, because you can have a clash of values. So if somebody's core value is respect and somebody else's is justice, there can be a real clash, because particularly in hierarchical organizations, and let's face it, all organizations are hierarchical to a certain extent. It might not be rank on your shoulder, but actually there is a hierarchy. And so if a particular boss who might have a tendency for toxicity, which is what I'm a mission to get rid of, they might say, right, you respect me because I'm your boss, actually is not doing anything that's very helpful, and that can be quite toxic environment, in which case somebody else whose top core value is justice, you can see how they could come at loggerheads. You should respect me. I don't respect you because you're not being fair. And therefore, that's when you can have conflict. So that's just a little bit of summary of my view of what values mean. And next week, I'm doing a 4-day challenge. I can't wait. Excited to do this for half an hour each day, 12:30 UK time, Monday to a Thursday, all about how to make a conversation a great one and never have to dread a tricky conversation again. So I'd love to see you there next week. And meanwhile, have a great think. If you want to know a bit more how to identify your values, put a message in the comments below, and I can send you my scorecard and my workbook in order to identify your values. So have a good evening, have a good day wherever you are in the world, and thank you so much. And please, if you're watching the replay, I love a little R below, because then I can celebrate you and thank you for listening. Take care. Bye-bye.